Want some? Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Adventure Time, Season 9, Episodes 10 through 12. So last time, we had our big special of this season. We had Elements, and it was fun. It wasn't the best special, but it had some really cool lore and some really interesting implications that I enjoyed. And now we're doing 3 episodes here. We're going to do 2 next week to finish off Season 9, and then we'll go straight into Season 10. I don't know what's coming. I don't know what these episodes are called. I know nothing about them. So, I don't really have much else to say. Like, these are going to be, like, pretty quick pre-thoughts because I don't really have thoughts for the most part here. I think we should just get into this and see what we have in store. So, let's do so. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, we have 3 episodes here, 2 of which I would say are, like, really good narratively and deliver a lot of, like, really satisfying shit. And the third one is just really interesting because of the implications here. Let's go, obviously, in order. We start with Abstract. Abstract almost made me cry. And actually, I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it here. Like, I mentioned at the end of that episode that I was going to have quite a bit to say on this. And that's because I was holding back tears on that one. Abstract is an episode that delves into, well, not the abstract. It delves into something that's entirely relatable and poignant for, I think, anybody watching the series, whether they be a child, you know, the marketed audience of the show, or an adult, whether watching on their own or with their kids or whatnot. This is an episode that can, like, definitely, like, really touch anybody and really, like, speak to them on a very important level. Because the episode touches on change and how we all change as people over time. It touches on the fear of change and the desire to ignore it. Change can be scary. It can be something that's hard to deal with. And that can manifest in a lot of different ways, as can ignoring it. Ignoring change can allow you to, like, lose track of who you are, lose sight of yourself. And from what I'm kind of gathering here, the blue form, the alien form, is like Jake's true form, like his true, like, natural look. But the, like, shorter yellow form that we normally see Jake in is more how he sees himself. But because he's been denying the fact that he could change, that he has changed, that he's grown, that he's become a different person than maybe he used to be, especially because of the events of things that have happened recently, things have obviously been getting a lot more intense, a lot more crazy. And with the entire being absorbed into Slime Princess thing and then having to reconstitute, he's kind of chosen to push away the idea of that change. As such, his body kind of almost naturally reverted. Because of him being a shapeshifter, it reverted to its natural form, an unchanged form. And by accepting the change, which he only accepts after talking to his brother and everything, he's able to, you know, maintain the form that he sees himself as, that he, you know, just his soul represents. And this is told, of course, through Jermaine changing himself, going from someone who's a landscape painter to an abstract painter, someone who used to hate abstract painting, but because of how much landscape painting he did, it started to feel more abstract as he went along. He started to lose like the structural feeling of it, and started to already see his art as becoming more abstract to him just from an interpretation standpoint. So he decided to roll with that and explore abstract painting kind of just intentionally. And it worked for him. It allowed him to express a new side of himself that he's discovered through growth, through change. And this episode is telling all the viewers, again, no matter what age, no matter what the reason you're watching, etc., that change is good. That change is something that should be embraced. Because everybody changes, everybody grows as time goes on. I mean, obviously in just very generic ways, like you age. But you can also change as a person. And the reason why this, like, really hit me and why I had to keep myself from crying, there's a lot of times where I do try to hold it back, and a lot of times where I do just let myself cry. It depends on how I'm feeling at the moment, and what I'm, like, watching and what I'm experiencing. It's like certain times, like, oh yeah, I'm good to cry at this. This is like gonna be a really good healthy cry. And then there's sometimes where it's like I'm not really in the mood to cry right now. I'm not at that. I'm not really in that kind of moment. And so that's usually when I hold it back. It's like I'm not in the moment to cry. I'm trying to ignore it, not out of like some kind of idea of like, oh, I don't want to cry on camera, because I do that plenty. Or even some kind of like, oh, crying is for weaklings. I don't believe that. But because it's like I'm not in a place where I want to start crying right now, because I feel like if I start, I will not be able to properly stop, and it'll probably mess me up for the day, and I don't want that. So, because that's happened before. But yeah, it's like that's why I was trying to hold it back instead of letting it go for this, compared to like other things. Um, this was really fascinating, though, just the way it touched on these topics. Because, like I've said before, it's like change has been important to me. The reason why this got me so emotional is because, like, of all the changes I've gone through in my life. And not even just as a trans girl slash non binary person. Not even just, like, being, like, queer and everything. But it's like I've gone through a lot of mental and emotional changes that have made me grow as a person. A lot of things that I've had to unlearn that I was taught as a child. And these changes are important, and I had to learn to embrace them. And it was hard at times. Because again, a lot of that stuff I had been taught all my life, and I had just like ingrained into me. But I had to work to make it like feel better, basically. I had to like keep myself moving forward, because otherwise I would stagnate, and that's never good. Change is important. It's something that we should embrace, and we should like not be afraid to confront when it happens. And again, that's what this episode is about. Like, Jermaine embraced change. He just let it happen. Jake had to learn to let it happen as well. it's like really it actually is one of those episodes that is that deep. Like there's some episodes of Adventure Time that it's like, oh, it's not that deep. It's just being fun. It's just, being a little goofy and maybe having a little bit of a message in it. No, this one is that deep. And it's intentionally so. And it's very clearly intentionally so. And it was really good. The second of these two episodes, though, episode 11, was Catch Up, or Catch Up, as was the intended statement. So this takes place, like, very directly stated to be 6 months after the events of Stakes. And BMO comes to Marceline's to help hunt vampires, but, they're too late in that. But Marceline asks for their help anyway because apparently she found an old USB that she can't seem to get working with her tech. And on top of that, she doesn't remember what's on it. While BMO is getting that going, they are asked by Marceline to tell the story of what happened on the boat trip, which, as we know, is islands. And we get, like, I guess BMO's, like, silly interpretation of it. It doesn't really, like, explain too much, and it's hard to really decipher, but I guess it's supposed to be their interpretation of what happened. But then Marceline actually gives us a little bit of backstory we didn't get with Elements. She actually explains what happened when Patient St. Pim first started to change everything. And she explains it in like an embellished, goofy way, just like BMO did. Except this one is actually much easier to follow along with what's happening. And we basically find out that it's like it started almost like a curse, and it like progressively got worse and worse. And obviously, like, she's explaining it as like potatoes, but we know it's like, speaking for the Candy Kingdom, it's like they started turning and changing, and Bubblegum especially was like hit with the worst of it and started to become like the tower, as we know. And Marcy was trying to help her. She tried to get the antidote from Patience. And I love that her way of getting it was just annoying the shit out of her. She just annoyed the shit out of her with her music. It's like, that's really funny. Patience eventually gave her what might have been the antidote, what might not have been. We don't actually know for sure. But by the time Marcy got back to Bubblegum, it was already too late. She had already been fully transformed and had become the element of candy, basically, the most uncontrollable literal interpretation. She refused to like take the antidote and everything, and in an act that I can only describe as like a tragic love story, Marcy destroys the antidote, not even again knowing if it was real or not, and decides to just go crazy right with her. Which obviously we know led to her being Marshmalline. And it's just like, wow, that's like, when you really think about it and what Marcy's explaining as having happened, it's like, that's like both really sad, like tragically sad, while at the same time being really beautiful. That Marcy just, rather than like trying to like live without Bubblegum, chose to like stay with her and become Candy herself, rather than go on without her. It's like, again, even though like the technical confirmation has not happened yet, it's like this show has made it so fucking obvious how fucking gay they are for each other. It is like so aggressively obvious. And I don't know if like they were forced to not like say anything before, which I mean I could believe if they were not allowed to make it very explicit, even though they again did everything in their power to make it as explicit as possible, just without saying the words. And like maybe like the very end of the series, which again is where I know it's fully confirmed, is like the only time they could actually do that. Sort of like how Alex Hirsch could only confirm the Blubs and Durland at the end of Gravity Falls, and was never able to like add in the fact that Wendy was by and stuff like that because of the studio. I don't know if it's exactly like that. I don't know if that's what was intended, but it's like it's so fucking obvious. Like this was like, you know what this very explicitly reminded me of? The Last of Us Left Behind. If you've never played the game or I guess seen the series, um, Left Behind is a DLC for the first Last of Us game that takes place prior to the events of the game. When Ellie is a little younger and she has her best friend Riley, and it's made very explicitly clear that they are, you know, they have feelings for each other. They're not quite a couple yet because they're still exploring those feelings, which is entirely fair for their age. They're still pretty young. They're like, I think at that time they're still like preteens. Like I think they're 12 or so. Because I know Ellie's like 14 in the main game of the first game, of course. But either way, they're like exploring an abandoned mall, and they both end up getting bitten. And this is before Ellie knows that she's immune. And like probably the most like heart wrenching but beautiful line in probably both of the Last of Us games is and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't remember the exact wording of it, but it's like, we'll sit here and go crazy together, referencing them both becoming zombies. And it's even fucking sadder because you know Ellie is immune, and you know that means that Riley died, became a zombie, and Ellie either had to run away from her or kill her. Which is like, Jesus fuck, that is sad. Because they loved each other. And they even shared a kiss. It made it very explicit there were feelings there. It didn't hide that. But yeah, it reminded me of that. And I don't know like the time frame of when this came out compared to that. I don't think it's an intentional reference or anything. Either way. But it's like that. It just reminds me of that. Like Marceline, even like both of them were infected, but Marceline, instead of taking the antidote, she could have taken at that moment, since PB wouldn't. She just chooses to turn into a candy form with her, to be with PB in that time, even if it's not going to be as herself. It's this tragic love story situation, and it's just like, that's kind of beautiful, man. But also really sad. But after that, the drive finishes getting scanned on BMO. So they end up showing that on the drive is a picture, they show it on the wall, of young Marcy and her mother. Which, this is very interesting because I think the last we saw of her mother was in Stakes. And the fact that this is explicitly making clear that it's 6 months after the events of Stakes, this is like kind of a direct follow-up to that. Because it's like one of the early episodes of Stakes had like a bunch of like flashback stuff with Marcy. I think one of like part of it was with Simon as well. But it like showed her and her mother. And we haven't, to my knowledge at least, seen her mother since in any way, shape, or form. And so this follow-up and seeing Marcy's like emotional like reaction to that was beautiful. And then I love that she like asked BMO to like tell a story version of what's happening in the picture, and BMO actually tells this really beautiful, loving story about not obviously not knowing that they're mother and daughter, but like paints them as like best friends who are like always there for each other and truly love each other and everything. And it's just like it's this just beautiful story that Marcy very clearly appreciates greatly. It's a beautiful episode. It's just like fuck, okay? Even for these little side episodes in between the premiere and finale and the, special we have this season, we're still getting like this crazy emotional shit that's like just really important. This just proves further and further that we're near the end. Like there's only one season to go after this. It's like this is just kind of the evidence of that. And then we have the more fun episode, I guess. The episode that's not really as connected. And it's a Fiona and Cake episode. We have Fiona and Cake and Fiona. And in this one, Ice King is doing one of his Fiona and Cake read-alongs at the library, I guess. And apparently a real Fiona suddenly appears. And Ice King starts to hang out with her. She has this tape that's like explaining what really happened and everything. But it starts to raise a lot of questions. And as we see there that she's hanging out more with Ice King, things start to get a little weirder, a little stranger, like you're starting to question a lot more. And in the tape, it's just, a simple Fiona and Cake kind of thing with a mummy who ends up being the Queen of Ooh. The Fiona and Cake version of the King of Ooh is just this little petite cutie pie, I guess. Sure. Really, really weird depiction for that, but okay. Because I didn't even recognize who she was supposed to be until it literally said it. I'm like, I'm looking at her design after she's unwrapped from the mummy bandage. I'm like, what am I looking at here? It's like this. She just looks like a random little cutie patootie. It's like, am I supposed to understand what this means that when she was unwrapped? And then Fiona, I think it was Fiona and not Cake, who said, who like called her out as Queen of Ooh, and I'm like, oh, that's supposed to be the Queen of Ooh? That's supposed to, okay. I mean, I know some of these characters can look a bit different. Like Ice Queen obviously looks notably different from Ice King and is, hot. Where as cool as I feel Simon is and everything, I wouldn't refer to him as hot. But yeah, it's a really interesting take because it's probably the most different of all of the like versions. But the thing that interests me most about this episode is during the library part, before the fake Fiona comes in, because she ends up being revealed to be just some random old rabbit woman who, like, somehow got, like, the copy of the tape was, like, it was beamed onto her TV, and I guess she recorded it. She was pretending to be Fiona to just feel better about herself. And it's mentioned in the library scene. When asked how these ideas come to him, he says they're beamed into his head at night while he sleeps. And I'm thinking like he's talking like from a like more metaphorical thing, like they come in my dreams basically. But then it reveals at the end, oh no, he means literally. He somehow knows this is happening even though he's sleeping. I don't know, maybe he records himself sleeping. I could see him doing that, the weirdo. But no, literally, we see that the Fiona and Cake stuff is beamed directly into his head at night. And that raises a lot of fucking questions. Because that makes me wonder, who is doing this? Why? Is it related to the Fiona and Cake spinoff? Is this fictional stories, or is this like a real like alternate universe thing happening? Because we know alternate universes exist within Adventure Time. And I want to make this very clear. Do not spoil me on this. Do not tell me what this is alluding to yet. Because I will be reacting eventually to Fiona and Cake. I do not want any level of spoilers for this. Like, I'm pretty much saying like that's pretty much a bannable offense. I will ban you if you do that. Do not spoil me on that. It's like this is something that I when I'm asking these questions, I'm just processing my thoughts. I don't actually want an answer right now. I want the answer to come to me in the series itself. Whether it comes in the rest of season 9 or 10 of Adventure Time or in Fiona and Cake, it doesn't matter. I want to see it as it's actually shown in the series. That's just like so fascinating to me though. And I'm very curious to know what the truth is going to end up being. Because that's just the fact that all these ideas, all of this stuff for Fiona and Cake this entire time has been like beamed into his head. It's like someone is trying to give him these ideas. But again, what would be the purpose of that? What would be the intent of it? I feel like the intent would vary entirely on whether or not these thoughts being beamed into his head are based on real things happening in an alternate universe, or if they're based on like just, fantasy stories. That's like, I feel going to change the entire context here, and I just don't know what it could be, so it's hard for me to even theory craft at this point. But it's really, really fascinating. The episode outside of that is like honestly one of the weaker Fiona and Cake episodes, because it doesn't actually focus on the Fiona and Cake story. It's more focused on what's happening outside of it with the fake Fiona and Ice King. And it's like, that's not really that interesting. It's not like super boring or bad. It's just not that great compared to other Fiona and Cake stories. And on top of that, it's just like, I feel like there are just more interesting things that they've done with these characters. But the implications at the end of like the possibilities of what this could mean, that's the best part of this episode by far. And I really, really can't wait to find out what that actually means. Again, though, no spoilers. I mean that. But yeah, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of these 3 episodes of Adventure Time? And like I said, next week we will be getting to the final 2 of Season 9, and then we'll be going straight into Season 10. So, yeah. In the meantime, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.